Sites of Grace. There's many of them. After all, they're necessary for the journey of any tarnished, otherwise they'd just be wandering around aimlessly and being sent right back to the beginning without them. So here are the 3 most secret of Graces I bet $10 you've never found or even heard about. And hey, they're quite useful, so you better take notes. Up first is this one. It's called the Bloodfiend Grounds. Bit on the nose given that there's a lot of, you guessed it, Bloodfiends fighting for their life. Anyways, it's quite useful because from here you can encounter a tough hostile NPC named the Bloodfiend Priest, capable of using Bloodflame Talons and the Teemo version of Magwin's Sacred Spear, but unfortunately I couldn't get him to use Bloodflame Talons in this clip. Though believe me, he can use that spell because if you've noticed, he's actually holding a Dragon Communion Seal which boosts arcane spells by a lot, and given that some Bloodfiends also cast that same spell, it makes sense. Anyhow, upon killing his ass, he drops a rune of an unsung hero. In what universe is this guy supposed to be an unsung hero? He probably just killed one and was hogging the money or something, most likely. Or maybe he's a hero to his people? I don't know. Regardless, there's one interesting thing of note, which is the way he dies. It's not like an ordinary NPC, but rather like a spirit. Perhaps the death animation is telling us he was summoned or controlled, similarly to how an NPC would be if you gave him the Solivus potion, of course. So either way, you don't see this guy at all in the wiki, nor do you really hear about him, so I'm guessing everyone else just sucks at video games and couldn't find them. The next one's called the Eternal Skyview, and it may be one of the most confusing graces in the entire game. You know how to access this location already. You simply get an imbued sword key to warp and fight a Crucible Knight, and that's pretty much all this little side area has to offer. Or so everyone thought, because upon returning here, you'll find this side just chilling on the side of a bridge, and right next to it is another Crucible Knight standing completely still. In fact, I don't even think he can move because he's frozen with this pose, strangely enough. But by far, the weirdest thing is how he's completely impervious to damage. No joke, you cannot hurt the guy. Plus, if you were to return here, you'd find him the exact same, except his colors changed to that of a furled finger on an NPC you summoned for help. And for some reason, he's still completely frozen and still impossible to interact with, and no matter how many times you come back, nothing about his color will change at all. I was so baffled when I first discovered this, but it does leave room for some interesting theories. I like to think that at some point, instead of fighting the Crucible Knight here, he would have been a useful ally against like a boss or something, since while yes, the bridge is completely destroyed, the existence of this grace implies maybe it wasn't always broken and you could actually reach Nukron this way. Or maybe even meet up with Vorre and warp to Magwin Palace, since weirdly enough, its rays point towards it. Also, side note, if you don't encounter the grace or this guy when you return, try doing so a couple more times. That should work, since meeting him is a little inconsistent. And lastly, we have a grace called Elden Beast. Yes, you heard me, Elden Beast. So in order to gain access to it, first of all, you must warp to the Fractured Marika site and reach this side of the invisible wall. There's no prompt or message that pops up while you're here, so it's no wonder why most people haven't discovered this secret 3 years later. But if you simply click the interact button, you should just phase through it and start falling. The fall will last about 30 seconds, making it the longest fall you can survive in this game by far. And then you should be at Elden Beast's arena. Move a little bit further, and there's the grace. It's rather useless as most other sites of grace you unlock after defeating a boss, but you know what? At least you can feel free to roam around and take a gander at its beauty, whilst noticing that its guidance is actually leading you forward despite there being an invisible wall you can't pass through. It sort of reminds me of when people first discovered that this place is actually located underneath the Ashen Capital, so in retrospect, it does actually make sense why dropping down here leads you directly to it. Classic FromSoftWare, always making hidden stuff for people to discover years later. And now there's one last thing left to say, and that's congratulations. You now know a little bit more about a video game that came out 3 years ago. By the way, if you're wondering why looking up these grace names online or in Elden Ring's map doesn't lead you anywhere, it's because they're always forgotten about and glossed over. By that, I mean for some reason, due to what I assume is an oversight in the game's code, you can't actually find them on any of these. Like, they don't show up at all in the map, resulting in you being unable to warp to them for convenience sake. But hey, at least that means finding them is extra cool. Anyways, I hope you tune in next time for when I rank every side of Grace. Bye!